we are. So we are live for our second live edition of Blue Collar Real Estate. I'm super excited to dive into this one today. Before we do, I need to share just a very interesting tidbit. And that was I borrowed a Diet Coke when I was at the office this morning, Greg. And here's a fun fact that most people I don't think are aware of. And that is that, do you know that Diet Coke has an expiration date on it?
Probably right when it's made, but no, go ahead.
I'm like, how does this happen? And for anybody wondering, Diet Coke that expired in November of 2018 is not very good. So I don't encourage anybody to drink one of those that is a year old right now. So anyway, that's our fun fact. What are we doing today, Greg?
I would suggest that Diet Coke that's fresh off the line probably doesn't taste very good. But today, so I thought it'd be interesting to talk about buying and selling homes in the winter.
Absolutely.
As we sit here in a cold November day in Indiana, there's a lot of myths, a lot of misunderstandings about that, and I think we should unpack that, kind of talk about some of the reasons it may be better for you to buy or sell in the winter.
I absolutely agree with that. I think there are many, as with anything, there's pros and cons to doing anything, right? And, you know, as an example, you and I have spent the last 3 days helping somebody get their house ready to sell. Tell everybody kind of what we've been working on there, because there are still people buying and selling homes in the wintertime, and we're going to dive into what some of those numbers look like in a minute, but kind of bring people up to speed on kind of what we've been doing to help this gentleman get his house ready to rock and roll here in a week.
Okay, so this has been fantastic.
We've had fun.
It's been a great time getting the tool belts back on. A nice reminder how incredibly out of shape I really am. But it's real simple stuff, right? There was some patch and drywall. We installed some trim.
Yep.
We installed a bar top. We installed some skirting going downstairs, took out a water softener, a little bit of painting. It's all stuff that's not super complicated. We're not talking about big project stuff, but it's stuff that makes a huge difference when you're trying to sell your home.
Absolutely gigantic difference. And, you know, just to, piggyback on what Greg's talking about, if you are getting ready to sell your home, you don't have the luxury of a lot of sunlight this time of year, okay? You know, the sun's not quite as shiny out there. You don't have quite as much natural light oftentimes, with cloud cover, et cetera. And with this home, a couple basic things that we did, such as painting the ceiling, right? And painting the trim on the home, a nice semi-gloss white. It just made this home pop so much. And it was really exciting to see what it did. A couple other basic things that we did to it was, the hardware on there. The hardware on the doors, taking out that old brass and putting in, nice brushed nickel hardware. Just things that anybody can do to get their home ready to sell, whether it be in the winter or, moving into next spring. Just basic things that absolutely make a home pop. And you and I have had a lot of fun doing that together.
Absolutely. And it's really important to note, most homeowners, when they sit down with an agent that's going to list their home, hopefully the agent has the conversation, we need to update this, we need to do that, and gives them a sort of a laundry list of items that need to be addressed.
Yep.
Now, what we've learned is that a lot of homeowners don't have the time, money, inclination, ability, or all the above, right?
Yeah.
To do these items that need to be done. And so what we decided is we have the skill, we have the ability to do it, maybe we can help out.
And we've had a lot of fun doing this because both Greg and I mean, that's kind of why we're doing this show, Blue Collar Real Estate, with the tool and, tool belt and the logo is, we both, and I did have a question. Did you have a screwdriver in your tool belt along with a ruler? Did you have that in your tool belt?
My mason's ruling stick is in my bucket, and the screwdriver does not point up.
It went okay. I had a hard time finding some tools from time to time, but we ultimately got there. We got this project done.
Had a hard time putting them back in the right spot too.
Well, that happened. So, all right. So let's move forward with what's actually going on with real estate in the winter time. So, I'm going to lump all of this into, winter time here in Indiana especially is, anything that's happening between December 1st and, the end of February 28th, 29th, whatever year we happen to be in there. So we're going to focus on that segment of the year, and then we'll kind of compare it towards the end of the show with how do those numbers compare with the spring? What are the differences between selling in the winter or buying in the winter and the spring? And, as we said to open the show, there's pros and cons with any of that. So if you're considering this at any point in time, we want to, just really kind of pull the curtain back on what do you need to know and what's realistically going to happen and what are some things you can do to put yourself in a better position.
So first, let's talk about myth versus fact.
Right on. All right. So what are some of the common myths that, you hear when you're talking to people about real estate?
First myth, right? Nobody is buying homes in the winter.
Well, and Dave Ramsey, okay, I know you're a big fan of his, so am I. And one of the statistics that Dave throws out there in one of his books is that last year, actually, 973,000 people, and this is a national statistic, but 973,000 people bought a home between December 1st of 2018 and February 28th of 2019. Okay, I don't know about you, but that's plenty of homes still being bought and sold, right?
Now, what percent of all homes sold is that?
That's where it gets even more interesting. This is where my I nerd out a little bit on stats. I love stats, but 19% of all of the homes sold between August of last year and August of this year were sold during that 3-month period.
So a fifth, 20%.
So one out of every
20%.
5 homes was sold during that period. So you can't make the statement that nobody is buying and selling homes in the wintertime. Now, there's certainly fewer. Okay. Zillow throws out another statistic that I, really liked, and that is that 23% fewer homes are bought in the winter than they are bought in the spring. Okay. And we'll dive into what that looks like in the Indianapolis market here in just a few seconds. But you absolutely cannot make the statement that nobody's buying and selling homes, because there is an abundance of real estate activity all the way back to, I remember this past winter in February, right as it was snowing, there was a line of cars backed up on 56th Street on the northwest side of Indianapolis to show a brand new home that came on the market that looked spectacular. These people did a phenomenal job with it, and I was one of probably 8 people lined up into the street to show this house in the middle of a snowstorm. So it absolutely is there if all of the factors line up to make sure.
So another myth.
Yep.
People only buy or move when the kids are on break in the summer.
Man, that's so interesting, and this statistic really blew me away when we were preparing for the show, and that is that half of the people that buy homes, and again, this is a Zillow statistic. I know most of our listeners out there probably have found their way onto Zillow at one point in time or another. It's a great website, and Zillow has all of this research that they do, and half of the people that bought homes last year do not even have kids under 18 years old. Consider that real quick. So half the people that bought homes are not even buying for that very reason. A lot of people you and I work with are, but that's not the case for a huge percentage of the population. They're not even factoring schools into their decision making.
Right, and so that's a huge myth we have to overcome when talking about buying or selling in the winter.
Without a doubt.
Not everybody's got kids and looking for school districts. In my family, we're 6 months away from not having kids in school anymore. All of a sudden, being in a certain school district means absolutely nothing.
So what are some of the reasons, Greg, that you've explored why do people buy and sell in the winter? Because it's not just for schools. Again, that's something that a lot of people in our market at least, certainly lean on, or they like to say that, nobody's doing this because of schools, et cetera. But that's certainly not the case. I know I'm working with a client right now that they've started making quite a bit more money than they did 3 years ago when they bought their first home. And they found a great home that just happened to pop up this past week. And they're like, this is awesome. We want to go buy this house. And it fits all of their needs. They were so excited when we walked into this house that we literally went back, got pre-approved because they weren't ready to yet. We were just going to go explore, right? They got pre-approved that night, and we got their offer accepted yesterday because they were so excited. Well, they're going to be moving December 27th.
Nice.
Okay? So they're moving during that week of between the holidays there. Okay, which is another reason why people move, Greg. So what's that one look like?
So financial situation changes, which you just talked about. Family needs change. Another thing is job relocation.
Absolutely.
And in Indianapolis, we're experiencing a lot of people migrating to the city to work for headquartered companies here, or companies that are headquartered here if you're not Yoda. So a good reason to list your home for sale in the winter is that there are still a lot of active buyers out there.
Without a doubt.
There are a lot of people that need to move right now.
Without a doubt.
And what you touched on, during this time of the year, whether you're looking for a home or whatever, most people have more time off work.
I think that's huge.
With holidays and all that kind of stuff, longer weekends, that kind of thing. A lot of times people have more money to work with. They get bonuses, holiday bonuses, Christmas bonuses, tax returns, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So I lost my train of thought.
No problem at all. But
thank God we're not live.
Right. But that is a reason why people move, because, if you think about it, a lot of folks do have that luxury of having a little more time off during the holidays. So they have time to go look at homes. And I know that week between Christmas and New Year's is certainly an incredibly busy time for a lot of real estate agents that I know as well. And let's kind of transition a little bit to the seller side. We've talked a little bit about buyers and buyers having more time off, possibly a little bit more money available to them. Okay? And, beyond that, they've got, they've just got opportunities because, or not opportunities, that's not the right word right there, but, life is changing, okay? Life's never stagnant. It's always moving in one direction or another. And so people's lives are always moving there. So talking about sellers, a little bit, this is a little bit more challenging because unlike in the summertime when you can take photos and everything's green and blossomed and looks beautiful outside, right? You don't have that luxury right now, okay? And so what are some things, Greg, that a seller could possibly do to, put themselves in a little bit better spot, maybe making the home look a little bit more attractive, or maybe that their real estate agent could do to help them out with that?
Well, let's assume there's no snow on the ground.
That's helpful.
I mean, it's cold and the leaves are off the trees and whatever, but a lot of people don't realize you can still apply nitrogen to your lawn and make the grass green.
You showed me that 3-4 months ago, and I could not believe that was the case, but it's amazing what a little nitrogen does to a yard.
Yeah. You can still, in your landscape beds, put down fresh black mulch.
Yep.
Which gives some nice color. If it does snow, go ahead and make sure your walk is cleaned off.
Yep.
Nothing looks better in the winter. You got the pretty snow and a nice clean cut walk. Make sure nobody's going to slip and fall, that kind of thing. If you can have pictures taken before winter, do so. That's
ideal. That's something that, again, a good real estate agent is going to encourage somebody to do, because you don't just, again, wake up one day and decide to sell your house, right?
And it's not an agent walking around with one of these, right, with their phone. I would encourage you, and you and I do this with every listing, have professional pictures taken.
Yep. Now, one of the reasons why that's important, not just because, an iPhone, while it's a great camera, it's not necessarily the best for that purpose, but a professional real estate photographer is going to be able to help accentuate, the blue sky that maybe isn't there as commonly in the winter time. Okay, they're going to be able to, again, I hate saying this, but it happens every single house you see listed for sale. There's some doctored photos in there, and they can green up the grass, they can make the windows look better, they can enhance the lighting, in those photos, and they can make the sky a little more blue to make those pictures pop. Because when you're looking at homes online, right or wrong, you have to sell people based on those photos first, because they're not driving around looking at homes. They're pulling out Zillow or whatever app they're using, and they're looking at the photos. You have to. That's the first opportunity you have to sell a house, is with the photos.
And I read a stat in an article a couple weeks ago that said an average buyer will look at 20 to 25 homes online before they walk through one.
Absolutely.
So it's just what you're saying. And the other thing I've learned about professional photography, and I've got two cousins, one in San Diego and one here, that are both photographers, and they both do real estate photography. Mm-hmm. I tried to shoot a listing, but I knew my cousin Mike was coming to shoot it, the one in Martinsville I had.
Yeah.
I knew he was coming to shoot it the next day. So I took my iPhone, and I'm like, well, I'll give it a shot, see how my pictures look compared to him. Mine looked like a slow third grader did them.
That's not nice.
It's a different kind of photography.
Yeah.
And it is a specialty, and it is a specialty that's worth paying for, which is why you and I do.
Yep. And it's critical to do that. And another thing that's important that a lot of real estate agents aren't aware of, that I want, if you're hiring a real estate agent, make sure that they're leveraging the tools that are out there. I keep, this whole show is not a Zillow commercial, but I keep saying it because literally 8 out of 10 people buying a house are using that app to look for it. And it's a great tool. And Zillow also makes other resources available, or tools available. And when you use those tools, and here's where I'm going, is they have a new tool called a 3D home tour. Okay, and if you use those tools, they elevate your listing. The algorithm elevates that listing and keeps it more towards the top of people's searches, so more people are going to see your home if you're using those types of tools like video, the 3D home tours, professional photos, having enough photos. Those are all tips that you need to make sure that your real estate agent is using to make sure that if you are selling your home in the wintertime, you are going to maximize the exposure, which is going to help you get more money for your home.
And while we're talking about Zillow and their algorithm, another thing that they factor in is the listing agent's rating.
Absolutely. It's super important.
If you're a 5-star Zillow agent, your listings will get bumped just like all the things you're talking about. So there's a lot of factors to think about. And it's not just Zillow. There's all kinds of technology out there that to sell in the winter, to sell any time of the year, but certainly to sell in the winter, your agent needs to be leveraging.
Without a doubt. Okay. Now, I want to kind of sidestep here a little bit. I want to talk about some of the benefits of a buyer that is considering moving in the wintertime. I'm actually going to show some numbers here in just a quick second.
You're getting ready to geek out on some
I'm
charts,
getting ready to geek out on some numbers and some charts here. So if you're watching on YouTube or watching on Facebook, we'll flip to the screen here in just a minute. We'll cue Jason up on that. But one of the things...
He caught me leaning back drinking my water.
One of the things that I want to start with on that is there is simply less competition when you're buying a house in the wintertime. Okay, one of the things that, there's still people looking for homes,
Yep.
but there are fewer people looking for homes. So I'm gonna switch screens here, Jason, if you don't mind, real quick. We're gonna switch to the screen, and we're gonna look at, this is the Indianapolis real estate market. And what I did, our showing office, showing time, they have a great a tool that will actually show you what's going on, and it's a little bit small on the screen here, but right here we've got Indianapolis is the market. So this is the entire metro area of Indianapolis, and we're looking at how many showings took place in Indianapolis between March and the end of May. Okay, so the spring selling season, the season that everybody likes to wait for, or, oh, you know what, we're going to wait till spring to sell our home because there's more people looking.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. There is definitely more people looking, and this is broken down by price point. If you want to look at this, hop on YouTube and check it out. But there were 29,000 showings that happened in that, March to May for homes priced under $200,000. Okay, so 29,000 people scheduled a showing to look at homes during that time period. That's not a small number, and then 13,000 between 200 and 300,000. Now, I'm going to run the math here real quick. I'm going to change this, and remember those numbers, Greg. So 29 and 13. Now we're going to go back to December 1st.
Pressure.
To the end of February. Okay, so 29,000. Here we go. So now that same price point, almost 20,000 people were looking at homes. So only 9,000 fewer showings during the same 3-month period happened. 20,000 showings is still not a small number of people. That is plenty of people that are looking for homes. Okay? And then it goes down to 8,000. So there's generally about 30% fewer showings. But man, there's still a lot of showings that happen. There's still a lot of people actively buying and selling homes. Again, the numbers right there show it. Again, this is just Indianapolis. If you want to see what those numbers look like in your area, reach out to us. We'll be happy to show you everything that we can see here. I believe in full transparency. So.
Absolutely. And the other thing, and you kind of touched on it with this and some other things you said, so I'm just going to give it a name now. During the winter, your agent, whoever he or she may be, is likely not quite as busy. So whether you're buying or selling, you will more than likely be able to command more of their attention, more of their time. Not that you can't get good service in the summer. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying in the winter, they've got more time to spend just on you.
Yep. No, that's exactly the case. And, while I would love to always be helping 10, 15 people at any given time, that also gets a little tiring. Sometimes we want to slow down a little bit. And, during this time of the year, there simply is more time. Now, there's things I could do to always be busier, of course. However, generally speaking, I am spending a little more time. You and I spent the last 2 days helping this gentleman get his home ready to sell, partially because we wanted to, but partially because, it's going to help him out, and we had the time to do it, and it was a lot of fun. We enjoy doing that stuff. But one last thing I want to show you on this, and this is my notes here, so I'm going to scroll and zoom in here, but I ran some numbers, okay? And looking at what was going on in December of 2018 to the end of February of 2019, I ran the same numbers for all of Indianapolis, okay? And in all of Indianapolis, at the end of last year through the early part of this year, 2,400 people still bought a home. Okay, almost 2,500 people still bought a home and closed on it. Okay, and if we look at some of the median numbers here, okay, they got a little bit better deal. Okay, the median home hit the market at $149,900, and it sold at $147,000, and so you got a little bit of a discount, about a 2% discount. It took about 3 weeks to sell. Okay?
And for the people that are looking at this on YouTube, SP to LP means sale price to list price.
Right. So that's like what I like to call a discount rate. You got about a 2% discount if you bought the home during the cold months. And you had a little more time to make a decision. Now, if we fast forward to what happened between March and May, man, median price went way up. And there was no discount available. You basically had to pay full price. Why? Because there's so many more people looking at homes in the market at that time, and you had less time to make a decision. The median days on market goes from 22 in the cold months down to 10 in the spring. That's a big difference.
And it is a big difference, but 22 days on market still is not bad.
It's phenomenal.
We're still in a killer market, and that's one thing people need to be aware of. We're not looking at what we were 8 or 10 years ago, where homes were on the market an average of 100, 120 days.
Right.
22 days is still moving pretty quick.
That's not a lot of time at all, relatively speaking. So we wanted to just take a few minutes this episode and just kind of shed some light on what is going on with real estate in the cold months. Does it make sense to do it? Well, while it's certainly more fun to move when it's warm outside, that's not always the case for everybody. And there's still opportunity to sell a home, do incredibly well with it. And if you're looking for a home this time of year, I think the numbers just show you can possibly get a little bit better deal and have more time to make that decision, possibly not feeling as rushed.
Absolutely. And if you're going to list your home this winter, or any time, but especially this winter, give us a call. Let us walk through with you what we can do to make your home sell quicker and to maximize your profit. See, our job working with the sellers to help them maximize what they can sell their house for.
Absolutely. Yep.
Like we've been doing this week with the gentleman in the house. Our job with the buyer is to help them
get the best
deal possible. So, which is why you stay away from the me deals.
Right. Not a fan.
If at all possible. But so that's what we got today. I did forget to mention that people should like, rate, review. I don't remember all the stuff now.
Subscribe, rate, and review. If you took some benefit from this, do not buy your old Diet Coke. Buy new Diet Coke. It's tastes much better. And I think that's about all we've got for this episode.
Well, I would like to just take a second and thank our sponsor.
Oh, who's that this week?
This week is Roderick's Bait and Tackle Shop and House of K-Pop. Because when you're going fishing, there's nothing better than Korean pop music to soothe the soul.
Oh, my word.
That's Roderick's Bait and Tackle and K-Pop.
That's it for this week, everybody. Hope everybody has a good weekend. Thanks so much.
Take care.